The transport shuttle shook as it passed through the docking bay shields. Kong Tai-ho sat alone in the back row, his small bag resting on his lap. Through the window, he could see the massive shape of orbital station Keras 7. It was bigger than any building he had ever seen on Earth. The station was home to the Galactic Military Academy, the most famous military school in all of known space. Tai-ho was 19 years old. He had grown up in the rough streets of Busan, fighting for food and survival since he was a child. His grandmother had raised him after his parents died in a factory accident. She had taught him to be patient, to be strong, and to never give up. When she died last year, Tai-ho had nothing left on Earth. Then the scholarship offer came from the Galactic Coalition. They wanted humans to join their academy. Tai-ho was one of only 3 humans in the entire galaxy who had been accepted. The shuttle landed with a soft bump. The doors opened, and Tai-ho stepped out into the docking bay. The air smelled clean and artificial. Bright lights hung from the ceiling far above, and everywhere he looked, there were aliens. He had seen pictures of alien species during his training on Earth, but seeing them in person was different. There were tall creatures with 4 arms and blue skin. There were short, reptile-like beings with scales that shone like metal. There were thin, graceful aliens with silver hair and large eyes, and there were massive creatures that looked like walking, mountains of muscle and bone. All of them were staring at him. Tai-ho kept his face calm and walked forward. He could hear their whispers. His ears were good, better than most humans. On Earth, you learned to listen carefully, or you died, said a human. A Deathworlder. They actually let one in. Look at it, so small. So primitive. I heard their planet has creatures that eat their own kind. Disgusting animals. Tai-ho said nothing. He had heard worse things on the streets of Busan. Words did not hurt him anymore. He walked past the crowds and followed the signs to the processing center. The processing center was a large, white room filled with desks and computers. Alien officers sat behind the desks, checking documents and giving directions to new cadets. Tai-ho joined the shortest line and waited. Tai-ho. Kong Tai-ho. He turned around. A young woman was walking toward him. She had black hair tied back in a ponytail and a familiar face. Human. She was human. I am Yu Nari, she said in Korean. I arrived 2 months ago. I heard another human was coming today, so I wanted to meet you. Tai-ho nodded. Thank you, Nari smiled, but her eyes were serious. Listen to me carefully. This place is not friendly to humans. The aliens here think we are dangerous animals. Some of them hate us because they fear us. Others hate us because they think we are beneath them. Either way, they will not make your life easy. I understand, Tai-ho said. Do you? Nari stepped closer and lowered her voice. Last month, a Torvani cadet tried to start a fight with me in the training hall. I had to report him to the instructors. They did nothing. They said I probably provoked him. She shook her head. Keep your head down. Do not draw attention. Survive. That is all we can do here. Tai-ho looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded again. I will be careful. Nari seemed satisfied. Good. I will see you around. Good luck, Tai-ho. She walked away, and Tai-ho returned to his place in line. When his turn came, the alien officer barely looked at him. The officer was a Silveri, tall and thin, with pale silver skin. His long fingers moved quickly over the keyboard. Human, the officer said, his voice flat. Kong Tai-ho, Earth origin. Deathworld Class 12. He made a small sound of disgust. Barracks 7C. Training begins tomorrow at 0600. Do not be late. The officer handed Tai-ho a small card with his room number and a map of the station. Tai-ho took it and walked away without a word. The hallways of the academy were long and wide. The walls were made of smooth gray metal, and the floors were so clean that Tai-ho could see his reflection. He passed many cadets on his way to the barracks. Most of them stepped aside when they saw him coming. A few whispered and pointed. One group of reptilian cadets laughed loudly as he walked by. Tai-ho ignored them all. He found Barracks 7C at the end of a long corridor. The door slid open when he pressed his card against the panel. Inside, the room was empty. There were 6 beds arranged in 2 rows, but none of them showed any signs of use. No bags, no personal items, no blankets. Just bare mattresses and metal frames. Taeho understood immediately. His roommates had requested transfers. They did not want to live with a Deathworlder. He chose the bed closest to the window. Outside, he could see the stars. Millions of them, bright and cold against the blackness of space. Somewhere out there was Earth, his home. His grandmother's grave. Taeho sat down on the bed and opened his bag. He did not have many things. Some clothes, some basic supplies, and 1 small photograph. The photograph showed an old woman with white hair and kind eyes. She was smiling at the camera, her hands folded in her lap. Taeho placed the photograph on the small table beside his bed. He looked at it for a long time. "I made it, Halmoni," he whispered in Korean. "I am here. I will not waste this chance. I will become strong. I will make you proud." The room was silent. The stars continued to shine outside the window. Later that evening, there was an orientation ceremony in the main hall. Commandant Orvax, the head of the academy, stood on a tall stage and spoke to the new cadets. He was a Grundon, one of the massive species that Taeho had seen earlier. His voice was deep and powerful, and it echoed through the hall like thunder. "Welcome to the Galactic Military Academy," Orvax said. "You have been chosen from billions of candidates across 200 species. You are the best of your worlds. Here, you will become the best of the galaxy." Taeho stood in the back of the hall, far from the stage. He could feel eyes on him. He could hear whispers. But he kept his attention on the commandant. "In this academy, we do not care about your species, your family, or your homeworld," Orvax continued. "We care only about your strength, your skill, and your dedication. Prove yourself worthy, and you will earn the respect of the coalition. Fail, and you will be sent home in shame." For a brief moment, the commandant's eyes moved across the crowd and stopped on Taeho. The look was cold and hard. It lasted only a second. Taeho felt its weight. Then Orvax looked away and continued his speech. Taeho understood the message. The commandant did not believe in him. Nobody here believed in him. He was alone in a galaxy that saw him as nothing more than a dangerous animal from a primitive world. But Taeho had been alone before. He had survived the streets of Busan. He had survived hunger and cold and violence. He had survived losing everyone he loved. He would survive this too. That night, Taeho lay in his bed and stared at the ceiling. The barracks were silent and empty. The stars shone through the window. He closed his eyes and made a silent promise. No matter what happened, he would not give up. He would not break. He would become the soldier his grandmother had always believed he could be. And one day, the galaxy would know the strength of a human from Earth. 3 weeks passed at the Galactic Military Academy. Taeho woke up every morning at 5 o'clock, 1 hour before training began. He ran laps around the station's outer ring. He did push-ups and sit-ups until his muscles burned. He practiced the fighting techniques he had learned on the streets of Busan. Then he went to Deathworld, official training with the other cadets. The training was hard. The instructors pushed everyone to their limits. They ran obstacle courses that stretched for kilometers. They lifted weights that would crush a normal person. They fought in combat simulations against holographic enemies. They studied tactics and strategy until their heads hurt. Taeho excelled at everything in the running tests. He finished first. His legs, built for Earth's heavy gravity, carried him faster and longer than any alien could match. In the strength tests, he lifted weights that made the instructors check their equipment twice. In the combat simulations, he moved through enemies like a ghost, striking fast and disappearing before they could react. The instructors were impressed, but they never praised him. "Deathworld genetics," one instructor said, watching Taeho finish an obstacle course in record time. "It is not skill. It is just biology. Any animal from that hellhole would perform the same." The other cadets whispered similar things. They said Taeho was not talented. They said he was just a beast, born with unfair advantages. They said he did not deserve to be at the academy. Taiho heard every word. He said nothing. But one cadet was not satisfied with just words. His name was Vrel. He was a Torvani, one of the tall blue-skinned species with 4 arms. His father was a senator in the coalition government. His family was rich and powerful. Vrel had grown up believing he was the best at everything. He had never lost a fight. He had never been second place until Taiho arrived. Vrel hated the human with every part of his being. Every time Taiho beat his score in training, Vrel's anger grew. Every time the instructors mentioned Taiho's performance, Vrel's hatred deepened. He could not accept that a primitive animal from a backwater planet was better than him. So he decided to break the human. It started with small things. One day, Taiho sat down in the mess hall with his food tray. Vrel walked past and accidentally knocked the tray out of his hands. Food spilled all over Taiho's uniform. Vrel laughed and walked away with his friends. Taiho cleaned himself up and got another tray. He did not complain. The next day, Taiho went to the equipment room to get his training gear. His locker was empty. Someone had taken everything. He had to borrow old, broken equipment from the supply closet. The instructors marked him down for having improper gear. Taiho still said nothing. The harassment continued every day. Someone put holes in his uniforms. Someone deleted his homework from the computer system. Someone spread rumors that Taiho had attacked a cadet in the showers. The rumor was false, but nobody cared. They wanted to believe the worst about the Deathworlder. Nara found Taiho sitting alone in the library one evening. She sat down across from him and shook her head. "You need to report this," she said quietly. "What they are doing is against Academy rules." "Report to who?" Taiho asked. "The instructors do not care. The Commandant does not care. Nobody here will help a human." "Then fight back," Nari said. "Show them you are not weak." Taiho looked at her with calm eyes. "If I fight back, I prove them right. They say humans are violent animals. They are waiting for me to lose control. I will not give them what they want." Nari sighed. "Then what will you do? Just suffer forever?" "I will endure," Taiho said. "I will graduate. I will become an officer. And then they will have no choice but to respect me." Nari did not look convinced. But she said nothing more. The harassment got worse. During a sparring session, Taiho was paired against Vrel. The rules were clear: light contact only, no strikes to the head or throat. But Vril did not follow the rules. Halfway through the match, he threw a hard punch straight at Taiho's face. Taiho blocked it, but Vrel's second fist came from below and struck his ribs with full force. Taiho heard something crack. Pain exploded through his chest. He fell to one knee, struggling to breathe. "Sit down," Vrel said loudly, stepping back with his hands raised. The human moved into my strike. I could not stop in time. The instructor looked at Taiho on the ground, then at Vrel, standing innocently above him. "Accident," the instructor agreed. "No penalty. Match over." Vrel smiled and walked away. His 6 friends laughed and followed him. Taiho spent 3 days in the medical bay with 2 broken ribs. The doctors gave him medicine that healed the bones quickly, but the pain stayed with him. Not the physical pain that he could handle. The pain of injustice. The pain of being alone in a galaxy that wanted him to fail. When he returned to his barracks, he found something that broke his heart. His grandmother's photograph was lying on his bed. It had been torn into pieces. Small, careful pieces, like someone had taken their time destroying it. Taiho stood very still. He picked up the pieces one by one. His hands did not shake. His face did not change. But inside, something shifted. He heard laughter from the doorway. Vrel was standing there with his 6 friends. Grix and Brox, the twin reptilian brothers. Phenox, the fast and agile Silvari. Toric, the massive Grundon. Celix, the flexible Nelvari. And Damos, the pale Ciari with glowing eyes. "Oops," Vrel said with a cruel smile. "Did we break your little picture? We are so sorry. We were just curious what a Deathworlder keeps as a treasure. Turns out it was just garbage." His friends laughed louder. Tejo looked up from the torn pieces. For the first time since arriving at the academy, there was something different in his eyes. Something cold. Something dangerous. Vrel saw it, and felt a tiny shiver run down his spine. But he pushed the feeling away. The human was weak. The human would not fight back. The human was nothing. "What is wrong, animal?" Vrel asked. "Are you going to cry? Are you going to run to the instructors? Go ahead. Nobody will help you." Tejo said nothing. He carefully gathered all the pieces of the photograph and put them in his pocket. Then he turned away and lay down on his bed, facing the wall. Vrel frowned. He wanted a reaction. He wanted the human to break. But Tejo gave him nothing. "Pathetic," Vrel said. "Come on. Let us leave the animal alone with his garbage." They walked away, still laughing. That night, Tejo did not sleep. He lay in the darkness and thought about his grandmother. He thought about her smile. He thought about her voice. He thought about all the times she had told him to be patient, to be strong, to wait for the right moment. He thought about Vrel and his friends. And for the first time, Tejo allowed himself to feel the anger he had been holding back for 3 weeks. It burned inside him like fire. It filled his chest and his arms and his fists. It screamed for release. But Tejo was not a beast. He was not an animal. He was a human being, and human beings knew how to wait. Vrel had made a mistake. He thought Tejo was weak because he did not fight back. He thought silence meant fear. He thought patience meant submission. He was wrong. The tiger was awake now, and soon, very soon. Vrel would learn what that meant. 3 days after they destroyed his grandmother's photograph, Tejo received a message on his personal communicator. The message was marked urgent. It said that Nari had been injured in the maintenance sector of the station. It said she was asking for Tejo. It said to come quickly and to come alone. Tejo read the message twice. His heart began to beat faster. Nari was his only friend in this place. If she was hurt, he had to help her. He did not stop to think about why the message seemed strange. He did not stop to wonder why Nari would be in the maintenance sector at night. He did not stop to question anything. He just moved. Tejo left his barracks and ran through the corridors of the station. The halls were mostly empty at this hour. Most cadets were in their rooms, sleeping or studying. The lights were dimmed to save power during the night cycle. His footsteps echoed on the metal floor. He reached the maintenance sector in 5 minutes. It was located on the lower levels of the station, far from the main training areas and living quarters. The corridors here were narrow and dark. Pipes and cables ran along the walls and ceiling. The air smelled like oil and metal. Tejo slowed down and looked around. The message had said Corridor 9 Delta. He checked the signs on the walls, followed them deeper into the maintenance sector. The corridor grew darker as he walked. The lights here were old and weak. Some of them flickered. Some did not work at all. Tejo could barely see a few meters ahead. "Nari," he called out. His voice echoed in the empty corridor. "Nari, are you here?" No answer. Tejo walked further. His instincts, sharpened by years of survival on Earth's dangerous streets, began to wake up. Something felt wrong. The air was too quiet. The shadows were too deep. He could feel eyes watching him from the darkness. Then he heard a sound behind him. Tejo spun around. A large figure stepped out of the shadows, blocking the corridor. It was Torek, the massive Grundon from Vrel's group. His body was like a wall of muscle. His small eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. Tejo turned back around. Another figure appeared from the other end of the corridor. Then another. And another. Within seconds, all 7 of them were there. Vrel stepped forward from the group. His 4 arms crossed over his chest. His blue skin seemed to glow in the darkness. A cruel smile stretched across his face. "Hello, Deathworlder," Vrel said. "Thank you for coming. We were worried you might not fall for our little trick." Tejo understood immediately. The message was fake. Nari was not here. There was no injury. It was all a trap. He looked around, measuring the situation. Torek was behind him, blocking the way back. In front of him were Vrel, Grix, Brox, Phoenix, Celix, and Damos. They had positioned themselves carefully. There was no way out. "Where is Nari?" Taiho asked. His voice was calm. Vrel laughed. "Safe in her barracks, probably sleeping. She has no idea you are here. Nobody knows you are here. We made sure of that." He gestured at the walls. "No cameras in this section. No security patrols. No instructors. No rules." The 7 aliens spread out, forming a loose circle around Taiho, Grix, and Brox. The twin reptilian brothers moved to his left. Their scales rattled as they walked. Phoenix, the fast Silveri, bounced on his feet to his right, ready to strike. Celix, the flexible Nelvari, coiled his long limbs like springs. Damos, the pale Ciari, hung back, his eyes glowing brighter as he prepared his mental abilities, and Torix stayed behind Taiho, his massive fists ready to crush. "We gave you many chances to break," Vrel said, stepping closer. "We destroyed your things. We hurt you in training. We tore up your precious little picture. But you just kept going. You just kept surviving. You just kept beating me in every test." His voice grew harder. "I am tired of it. I am tired of a primitive animal making me look bad. Tonight, we are going to teach you your place. Tonight, we are going to break you so badly that you will never recover. And tomorrow, you will leave this academy forever." Taiho stood still in the center of the circle. He did not move. He did not speak. He just watched them with those calm, dark eyes. Vrel frowned. "What is wrong? Are you not going to beg? Are you not going to cry? Are you not going to call for help?" "No," Taiho said quietly. "Then you are even more stupid than I thought." Vrel cracked his 4 knuckles. The sound was loud in the silent corridor. His friends moved closer, tightening the circle. 7 against 1, Vrel said. 7 of the best cadets in the academy against 1 primitive Deathworlder. I almost feel sorry for you. Taiho looked at him. Then, slowly, he looked at each of the 7 aliens around him. He studied their positions, their stances, their weaknesses. He noted how Phoenix shifted his weight from foot to foot. He saw how Grix and Brock stayed close together, protecting each other. He watched Damos's glowing eyes and felt the faint pressure of a telepathic probe against his mind. Then, Taiho did something unexpected. He smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was not a nervous smile. It was the smile of a predator who had finally found his prey. 7 against 1, Taiho said, his voice soft and cold. That is not enough. Rel's eyes widened. For a moment, just a single moment, he felt fear. Real fear. The kind of fear that his ancestors had felt millions of years ago, when they were hunted by creatures in the dark. But Vrel pushed the fear away. He was a Torvani warrior. He was the son of a senator. He would not be scared by a human. Big words from a dead animal, Vrel said. Let us see how confident you are when you are bleeding on the floor. He raised one of his hands and made a signal. Attack. Anux moved first. He was the fastest of the group, able to cross 10 meters in less than a second. His body blurred as he shot toward Taiho, his claws aimed at the human's throat. Grix and Brox charged from the left, their heavy bodies shaking the floor. Torque roared and rushed from behind, his massive fist raised. Celix launched his flexible limbs forward like whips. Damos's eyes blazed as he sent a psychic attack at Taiho's mind. And Vrel watched from the center, confident in his victory. 7 against 1. The best fighters in the academy against a single human. It should have been an easy win. It should have been, but none of them understood what they were really fighting. None of them knew what a death world truly meant. None of them had ever faced a creature that had evolved. On a planet where everything was trying to kill you, they thought. Taiho was just a strange-looking alien from a primitive world. They were wrong. Taiho was a human being. And human beings were the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. Time seemed to slow down. Taiho's heart beat once, twice. His eyes saw everything at once. His muscles tensed like coiled steel. His mind became clear and empty, focused only on survival. On Earth, there was an old saying, do not wake a sleeping tiger. The tiger was awake now, and it was time to hunt. What happened next took exactly 6 seconds. Phoenix reached Taiho first. The Sylvari was fast, faster than any creature Taiho had ever faced. His claws cut through the air like silver knives, aimed perfectly at the human's throat. Any normal target would have been dead before they could blink. But Taiho was not normal. On Earth, humans had spent millions of years fighting for survival. They had hunted creatures with claws and fangs. They had escaped from predators that could run faster than any vehicle. They had survived ice ages and heat waves and diseases that killed billions. Their bodies had evolved to react to danger faster than conscious thought. Phoenix was fast. Taiho was faster. In the split second, before the claws reached his throat, Taiho moved. He stepped to the side just a few centimeters, just enough to let the claws pass by his neck without touching. At the same time, his hand shot out and grabbed Phoenix's wrist. Phoenix had never been caught before. His speed was his greatest weapon. Nobody could touch him when he attacked. The shock of being grabbed froze him for just a moment. A moment was all Taiho needed. Using Phoenix's own speed and weight, Taiho pulled the Sylvari forward and slammed him face first into the metal wall. The impact made a sound like a bell ringing. Phoenix collapsed to the floor, unconscious. Blood dripping from his broken nose. 1 second. Grix and Brox reached Taiho at the same time. The twin brothers always fought together. They had practiced their attacks for years. One would strike high while the other struck low. No enemy had ever beaten them. Grix swung his clawed hand at Taiho's head. Brox aimed a kick at his legs. It was a perfect combination attack. Taiho dropped low, under Grix's swing. His elbow drove upward into Grix's stomach with all the force of a human born in heavy gravity. The strike was like being hit by a hammer. Grix's internal organs compressed. The air exploded from his lungs. His eyes rolled back in his head as he doubled over in pain. Before Brox's kick could land, Taiho swept his leg across the floor. The move was simple, but devastating. Brox's legs flew out from under him and he crashed down on his back. Before he could recover, Taiho's palm struck the side of his head. Not hard enough to kill, but hard enough to turn off his brain like a light switch. Brox stopped moving. Grix was still bent over, struggling to breathe. Taiho grabbed the back of his head and slammed it into his rising knee. There was a cracking sound. Grix fell beside his brother. 3 seconds. Celix attacked from behind. The Nelvari's flexible limbs stretched out like tentacles, wrapping around Taiho's arms and chest. Celix was an expert at grappling. His limbs were stronger than they looked, able to crush metal pipes. Once he had someone trapped, they could not escape. But Celix had never tried to hold a human before. Human grip strength was legendary across the galaxy. On Earth, humans had evolved to climb trees, to hang from branches, to hold on to prey that was trying to escape. Their hands could crush objects that would break the fingers of other species. Taiho grabbed the limbs wrapped around him. His fingers dug into the soft flesh like iron claws. Celix screamed in pain, his grip loosening automatically. Taiho yanked the Nelvari forward, pulling him off balance. Then Taiho headbutted him. Human skulls were thick and dense, built to protect the most important organ in the body. The impact was like being hit with a rock. Celix's head snapped back, his eyes went blank, and he dropped to the floor in a heap of tangled limbs. For seconds, Torque finally reached Taiho. The massive Grundon was slow, but his strength was terrifying. His fists could punch through starship armor. One hit from him would break every bone in a normal person's body. Torque swung his fist at Taiho's head. The punch cut through the air with a whistling sound. It was powerful enough to kill. Taiho did not dodge. Instead, he stepped into the punch, moving closer to Torque instead of away. The fist hit his shoulder instead of his head. Pain exploded through Taiho's arm. He felt muscles tear and bones crack under the impact. Any other species would have collapsed from that blow. But humans had evolved on a death world. They knew pain. They lived with pain. Pain was just information. And Taiho had learned long ago to ignore information that did not help him survive, while Torque was still extended from his punch. Taiho counterattacked. His knee drove into the giant's midsection, targeting the soft organs beneath the muscle. Torek gasped and bent forward. Taiho's elbow came down on the back of Torek's neck like an axe. The Grundon's legs gave out, and he fell forward. Crashing into the floor with enough force to shake the corridor, he did not get. Up 5 seconds, Damos panicked. He had watched 5 of his friends fall in less time than it took to breathe. He had seen the human move through them like a storm, unstoppable and terrifying. His analytical mind, which had always been his greatest asset, could not process what was happening. Deathworlders were supposed to be primitive. Deathworlders were supposed to be stupid. This was not possible. In desperation, Damos launched his most powerful psychic attack. He reached into Taiho's mind, trying to overwhelm it with fear and confusion. It was a technique that had worked on every species he had ever faced. Even the strongest warriors could not fight when their own minds were turned against them. But human minds were different. Human minds had evolved under constant pressure. They had developed through millions of years of war and competition and survival. They were layered and complex, filled with memories and emotions and instincts that other species could not understand. When Damos tried to attack Taiho's mind, he did not find fear. He found rage. Primal, ancient rage. The kind of rage that had driven humans to conquer their deadly planet and reach for the stars. It hit Damos like a wall of fire. The Ciari screamed and clutched his head. His mental probe shattered. Blood dripped from his nose as his brain overloaded. Taiho crossed the distance between them in one step. His fist connected with Damos's jaw. The punch was clean and precise, targeting the exact spot that would cause unconsciousness without killing. Damos spun around once and collapsed. 6 seconds, Vrel stood alone. All around him, his friends lay on the ground. Some were groaning in pain. Some were completely still. The corridor was silent except for the sound of Taiho's breathing. The humans stood in the center of the bodies, his face calm, his eyes cold. His shoulder was injured from Torak's punch, and blood dripped from a small cut on his forehead. But he was standing. He was still fighting. Vrel's 4 hands trembled. His legs felt weak. For the first time in his entire life, he understood what real fear was. Wait, he stammered. Wait, let us talk about this. I am sorry. I am sorry for everything. We can forget this happened. I will leave you alone. I promise. Taiho looked at him without expression. You destroyed my grandmother's photograph. I'll buy you a new one. I will buy you 100, please. Cannot buy her back, Taiho said quietly. She is dead. That photograph was all I had left of her. Vrel's eyes filled with tears. Not tears of sadness. Tears of terror. Please, please do not hurt me. I am sorry. I am so sorry. Taiho walked toward him slowly. Vrel stumbled backward, his 4 arms raised in defense. On my world, Taiho said. We have a saying. Do not wake a sleeping tiger. Vrel hit the wall. There was nowhere else to run. Taiho stopped in front of him. For a long moment, he just looked at the Torvani who had made his life miserable for weeks. He saw the fear in Vrel's eyes. He saw the tears on his blue cheeks. He saw a bully who had finally met someone he could not bully. Then Taiho struck. 3 hits. Throat, liver, temple. Fast and precise, like a machine. Vrel made a choking sound and slid down the wall. He landed on top of his friends, unconscious. Taiho stood over him for a moment. His injured shoulder throbbed with pain. His hands were sore from hitting so many hard objects. His heart was beating fast in his chest, but he was alive, and his enemies were not. Taiho turned and walked away, leaving 7 unconscious bodies behind him in the dark corridor. His footsteps echoed in the silence. The tiger had woken up, and now the galaxy would know. The next morning, the Galactic Military Academy was filled with whispers. 7 cadets had been found unconscious in maintenance, Corridor 9 Delta. All of them were from important families. Vrel's father was a senator. The others had connections to military commanders, wealthy merchants, and noble houses across the galaxy. All 7 had serious injuries. Broken bones, concussions, internal bleeding. The doctor said they would recover, but it would take weeks. Some of them would carry scars for the rest of their lives. The security team investigated the scene. They found blood on the walls and floor. They found signs of a violent fight. But they did not find any camera footage. The cameras in that section had been disabled earlier in the evening. Everyone knew who had done it. The rumors spread through the academy like fire. The human, the Deathworlder, the animal from Earth. He had fought 7 cadets at once and defeated them all. Some cadets refused to believe it. 7 against 1? That was impossible. The human must have used a weapon. He must have had help. There was no way a single person could defeat 7 trained fighters in just a few seconds. But others looked at the evidence and felt a chill run down their spines. The injuries on the 7 cadets were consistent with hand-to-hand combat. No weapons. No assistance. Just 1 human against 7 aliens, and the human had won. Taiho was summoned to Commandant Orvax's office at noon. He walked through the corridors with his head held high. Cadets stepped out of his way as he passed. No one whispered insults. No one laughed. They just watched him with wide eyes and silent mouths. The Commandant's office was large and decorated with medals and flags from 100 worlds. Orvax sat behind a massive desk, his Grundon body filling the chair like a mountain filling a valley. His eyes were hard and cold as he watched Taiho enter. But Orvax was not alone. Standing beside the desk was a human man in an officer's uniform. He was tall and lean, with short gray hair and a face that looked like it had seen many battles. His name was Lieutenant Park Suho, and he was the only human officer stationed at the academy. Taiho had seen him before, but had never spoken to him. Suho kept to himself and rarely interacted with the cadets, but he was watching Taiho now with something that looked almost like respect. "Cadet Kang Taiho," Orvax said in his deep voice. "Do you know why you are here?" "Yes, Commandant," Taiho replied. 7 cadets are in the medical bay. They claim you attacked them without reason." "That is not true, Commandant." Orvax leaned forward. "Then tell me what happened." Taiho told him everything. The fake message. The trap in the maintenance corridor. The 7 bullies waiting for him. How they had blocked both exits and surrounded him. How they had attacked first. When he finished, Orvax sat back and frowned. "You expect me to believe that 7 cadets planned an ambush, and you somehow defeated all of them in self-defense?" "I do not expect anything, Commandant," Taiho said calmly. "I am telling you what happened." Orvax opened his mouth to respond, but Lieutenant Suho stepped forward. "If I may, Commandant." Orvax looked annoyed but nodded. "Speak." Suho pulled out a small device and placed it on the desk. "I have been monitoring the situation with our human cadets since they arrived. When Cadet Yu Nari discovered that a fake message had been sent to Cadet Kang using her name, she immediately reported it to me." He pressed a button on the device. A holographic display appeared, showing text messages, communication logs, and security reports. "These are the records of the fake message that was sent to Cadet Kang," Suho continued. "It was sent from a terminal in the recreational area. The terminal was accessed by Cadet Deimos using Cadet Vrel's authorization codes." He pressed another button. More data appeared. "These are statements from other cadets who witnessed the harassment against Cadet Kang over the past 3 weeks. Stolen equipment, sabotaged homework, damaged personal belongings, and, of course, the illegal strike during the sparring session that broke 2 of Cadet Kang's ribs." Orvax's frown deepened. Suho was not finished. "I also have testimony from a maintenance worker who saw Vrel and his group entering Corridor 9 Delta shortly before the incident. They were carrying tools to disable the security cameras." He turned off the device and looked at the Commandant. "The evidence is clear, sir. Cadet Kang was lured into a trap and attacked by 7 armed cadets who intended to seriously injure him. He defended himself. Nothing more." Orvax was silent for a long moment. His small eyes moved from Suho to Taiho and back again. The anger in his face slowly faded, replaced by something that might have been reluctant acceptance. Very well, he said finally. Based on this evidence, I rule the incident as self-defense. No charges will be filed against Cadet Kong. Taiho felt a small weight lift from his chest, but he kept his face neutral. As for the 7 cadets, Orvax continued, they will be expelled from the academy immediately. They will be sent home in disgrace, and their records will reflect their actions. He looked at Taiho with an expression that was hard to read. You are dismissed, cadet. Taiho saluted and turned to leave. As he reached the door, Orvax spoke again. Cadet Kong. Taiho stopped and looked back. You fought 7 trained cadets and won, Orvax said slowly. I have commanded this academy for 30 years. I've never seen anything like that. He paused. Perhaps I underestimated what Deathworlders are capable of. It was not an apology. It was not a compliment. But it was something. Taiho nodded once and left the office. Nair. I was waiting for him in the corridor outside. When she saw him, her face broke into a wide smile. You did it, she said. I cannot believe you actually did it. 7 against 1. 6 seconds. That is what everyone is saying. It was a little longer than 6 seconds, Taiho said quietly. Nari laughed. Still, 6 seconds. That is going to become a legend. Everyone in the galaxy will hear about this. Taiho did not smile, but his eyes softened slightly. Thank you for reporting the fake message. Without that evidence, I might have been expelled. Thank Lieutenant Suho, Nari said. He has been watching out for us since we arrived. He just does it quietly. She shook her head. I guess humans stick together even in space. They walked back to the barracks together. As they passed through the corridors, Taiho noticed something different. The alien cadets who had once avoided him or insulted him were now looking at him with different eyes. Not fear exactly. More like respect. The kind of respect that comes from seeing someone do something impossible in the mess hall. A group of cadets made space for Taiho at their table without being asked. One of them, a young Sylvari, nodded at him nervously. You can sit with us if you want, the Sylvari said. Taiho looked at the open seat, then at the faces around the table. None of them were friendly, exactly. But none of them were hostile either. He sat down. It was the first time since arriving at the academy that he did not eat alone. That night, Taiho returned to his barracks. The room was still empty. No one had asked to transfer in. But somehow, it did not feel as lonely as before. He sat on his bed and pulled out the torn pieces of his grandmother's photograph from his pocket. He had been carrying them with him ever since Vrel destroyed it. He looked at the pieces for a long time, remembering her face, her voice, her words.